As the Traveler and Paimon journey throughout Teyvat, new stories, adventures, characters, and a lot of excitement comes with it. However, without a way for players to revisit the story in-game, it might be hard to keep track of everything. Therefore, we want to recap the prologue, continuing with Act 2 for Tomorrow Without Tears, so new players, returning players, and even existing players that want to witness the story again all have the chance to do so via Johnity Recaps. To ensure we cover everything, the video might be pretty lengthy, so grab some snacks, some drinks, and by the end of this, you'll be a true Teyvat historian. Now without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Returning to Mondstadt, the Traveler and Paimon spot Jean talking to someone and decide to let her finish before saying hi. The mysterious person tells Jean that if the Knights of Favonius are unable to deal with Storm Terror, they should leave the defense of Mondstadt to the Fatui, who believes they can resolve the issue by bringing that monster to the ground? Jean becomes irritated by how Devon is addressed, expecting a more professional attitude from the Fatui diplomats, and criticizes the plan to dispose of one of the four winds of Mondstadt. Believing it doesn't sound as crazy as she thinks, the diplomat decides to end negotiations for the day and takes her leave. The Traveler and Paimon approach Jean, who thanks them for their help and states the elemental flow is stable. However, the pressure from the delegation is becoming an issue. After Paimon asks whether they're from Liyue Harbor or Inazuma City, Jean informs them that they're from Sheshnaya, who follow the god of cryo, which is ice, and go by the name of the Fatui. Paimon recognizes the group and mentions they're super famous, or rather, infamous. Returning to a discussion with the diplomat, Jean doesn't believe killing Storm Terror is the right course of action. The Fatui have always wanted the animal god's power, which is why she doesn't think they have Mondstadt's best interest at heart. On the topic of power, the Traveler says they need to show something to the Knights of Favonius, and Jean suggests they head back to headquarters since they shouldn't discuss important matters in the open. On the way, Jean mentions that Mondstadt and Sheshnaya are the same in status, and despite being referred to as a city, Mondstadt is a nation, but the Fatui are known to be the most aggressive diplomats in Teyvat. Arriving, they take out the Crimson Crystal, and Jean asks if Lisa is able to analyze it. Unfortunately, she can't make a proper analysis at the moment and needs more time to research the library's restricted section, but says they shouldn't get their hopes up since the texts are incredibly ancient.
Not to mention, ouch!
Lisa realizes the crystal reacts to visions, which were mentioned in Act 1 as something that's used by the Chosen to draw on elemental powers. She suspects that the crystal's impurities and the elemental energy repel each other, but wonders why the Traveler was not affected as well, despite also having elemental powers. Lisa then decides it'd be best to leave the crystal with the Traveler, as Jean asks if they know why they're special. She then makes a request for the Traveler to please accept the title of Honorary Knight for the Knights of Favonius, as well as her gratitude and for their continued assistance in finding answers. With Mondstadt's peace hanging in the balance, she says to meet back here once they find anything. Heading out, Paimon mentions that there was something the Traveler didn't tell them, that the dragon and crystal weren't the only things they saw, referring to the mysterious person. The Traveler says they want to investigate on their own first, since they didn't think he was a bad guy. Paimon is reassured that the Traveler remembers, and coincidentally,
He looked just like that guy down there!
identifying them as the same person, the Traveler and Paimon decide to tail him, but when they lose sight of him, Paimon suggests the Traveler use elemental sight to track him down, which allows them to see elemental attributes of nearby entities, in this case, the green fellow's animal footprints. After running around the city, they finally catch up to him in front of a crowd.
What is to be sung transpired in days of yore, when the divine archons still walked the earth. A dragon cast his curious gaze on the world below, as he parted from the heavens that gave his birth. The dragon sought truth amongst common folk, but mortal trifles only fogged his mind. The wind-born bard strummed his strings dulce, and the Holy Lyre answered his questions kind. The dragon was but a child full of wonder, and soared the heavens free from care. The bard's songs invited him to sing along, for he yearned to let all perceive him fair. Enchanting legends the bard and dragon were, but the tides of despair soon engulfed the land. The Lion Fang perished, and the Falcon Flag slept, as a vile dragon approached Mondstadt in lone stand. Over the cathedral loomed Death and his friends. Of the people's agony, the bard soon sang. The soaring dragon heeded his grave calls, and amidst the windstorms a brutal war sprang. Blood of venom sent the sky dragon into slumber, only to awake to be expelled in abhor. Why do people in this age loathe me so? But the Holy Lyre replied no more. Wrath and woe, vigor and venom, poured from the dragon's bitter eyes. The dragon's curse sprawled in silence, but the lyre could no longer soothe his cries.
Finishing his performance, the bard recognizes the Traveler and Paimon as the ones that scared Dvalin away. Paimon wonders why he refers to the dragon as Dvalin, since most call him Storm Terror, and asks if they are close, who confidently confirms. He then introduces himself as Venti the Bard, flexing his achievements, and asks what they need. The Traveler pulls out the crystal to show Venti, but seeing that it's no longer crimson red, realizes it's been purified, though they don't know how. Venti expresses the anguish that Dvalin feels has brought him to tears.
He was once such a gentle child, now so full of rage and suffering. I also came across a teardrop crystal. Can you purify it?
Venti is astounded by the Traveler's abilities, but informs him that even if Dvalin isn't taken down, his life is still fading due to the flames of anger. However, he has his own plans and bids them farewell. When Paimon asks where he's heading, Venti responds to the symbol of Mondstadt's hero and takes his leave. Paimon wonders what the Traveler makes of this, who thinks they should keep an eye on him, but notices Venti's voice sounds familiar. Paimon doesn't recall, but the Traveler's referring to the time in Act 1 when they were kept airborne by a mysterious voice. Discussing where the symbol of Mondstadt's hero is, Paimon remembers a huge tree as they set off to find Venti. Arriving at Windrise, Venti asks what they're doing here, but had been wondering if they would follow him. The Traveler says they want to know more about the god of Anemo, to which Venti mentions he disappeared from Mondstadt a long time ago, while Liyue and Inazuma's respective gods of Geo and Electro are still present. He then asks why the Traveler wants to know about the god of Anemo and wonders if there's a connection to Dvalin. The Traveler replies they learned about Dvalin's past from someone, and Venti wonders how people view Storm Terror since he hasn't been back in a while but gets interrupted by a monster known as an Eye of the Storm. After a fierce battle, Venti resumes the discussion regarding who told the Traveler about the dragon. Impressed by Lisa, he agrees that the conflict escalated due to both sides' use of force. He then states that Dvalin's hatred did not come from people's lack of tribute to the Four Winds or from his own nature, but instead from his own degradation. Due to the black blood flowing through his heart, which has been torturing him for years, he has been led astray by the lies of the Abyss Mage, who is from the Abyss Order, an organization of non-human beings which hates mankind. Hilichurls out in the wild also takes orders from them and act as their weapons. Venti explains that before arriving here, he was also cursed like Dvalin, but being underneath the symbol of Mondstadt's hero, he feels like he's being purified. Curious, Paimon asks how he got poisoned, who says it's because he tried to communicate with Dvalin, but was interrupted, and as a result, got infected himself. Since the Traveler was at fault, Venti demands they come with him to the cathedral to claim the Holy Lyre de Himmel. Arriving at the cathedral, Paimon asks about the lyre, and Venti explains it's one of the most treasured items in Mondstadt, which used to be played by Barbados. With it, he thinks he can help Devon return to his gentle nature. Paimon wonders if it'll really help prevent more damage, and Venti confidently assures her, saying he's the best bard in the world with knowledge of every song, whether it's from the past, present, or future. Forming a plan, Paimon asks how they can get the Holy Lyre, as Venti responds as deep within the cathedral and decides to look around, inviting them if they want to come along. Heading inside, one of the sisters asks how she can be of assistance, as Venti tells her he knows a secret that can help save Mondstadt. She becomes delighted, but wonders why he doesn't inform the Knights of Favonius instead of her, and Venti replies it's because she can help by letting him borrow the Holy Lyre.
Please see yourselves out.
De Himmel. She explains that the acting Grand Master and the Knights of Favonius have already made a decision, which Venti finds unacceptable since it could get Storm Terror killed. The sister shows no remorse, believing not even the god of Animo would forgive it for its betrayal. Desperate, Venti begs her, but is declined once again, as the sister ponders to herself why she feels so bad for rejecting him. Left with no other choice, Venti pulls his trump card.
My disciples, rejoice! Behold, the god of Animo, Barbados, has descended. Shocked, aren't you? Don't you just want to cry out and rejoice? How does it feel to finally meet the god you've been serving?
Thinking that he's a weirdo, she returns to her work. The Traveler regroups with Venti, who says that even though she didn't bat an eyelid, he still learned what he needed to, that the lyre is inside the cathedral. Since the Traveler is the hotshot of the Knights of Favonius, Venti tells them to give it a try. Approaching the sister, she recognizes the Traveler as the honorary knight of the Knights of Favonius and asks what brings them here. They tell her that the Knights would actually like to borrow the Holy Lyre, who finds it a little suspicious since a bard asked not too long ago, even spurting nonsense about being Barbados. She informs them that there are regulations for using the Holy Lyre and that it's currently only used in the Ludi Harpastum. Signed documents from the Grandmaster, Seneschal, and community representatives are required and asks if they have those. The Traveler thinks of an excuse, but without the documents, there's nothing she can do. Since Venti's plan didn't work, it's time to try Venti's new plan, and since borrowing it didn't work, it's time to steal it. Asking if the Traveler has any ideas on how to steal it, they speak up and say they don't want to steal it, but Venti states the Traveler is more suitable for the job. As the superstar of the Knights of Favonius, even if they got caught, they could talk their way out of it. Mentioning the guards are off duty at night, he says they should seize the opportunity and asks what the Traveler thinks. Recalling that Venti claimed to be Barbados, they say they simply can't abandon him, who wonders why that matters. Paimon tells Venti that she'll fill him in on their story later, as the Traveler says they'll help regardless and will retrieve the Holy Lyre de Himmel since they don't want to see another separation. Upon nightfall, they enter the cathedral's basement, infiltrating to obtain the Holy Lyre de Himmel. The covert operation goes smoothly, but as they try to grab the lyre,
Who are you? She disappeared!
Freeze! What are you doing here?
No, run! Oh no! We're busted! Run!
What? Follow me.
after being spotted, they make a wild escape across Mondstadt and follow Venti to a tavern. Entering, he requests a seat at the least conspicuous table as the owner, D-Luke, recommends the second floor since there are less customers, but asks why a bard wouldn't want to sit front and center. Venti brushes off the question as they head off, which D-Luke finds suspicious and asks Charles, the bartender, to keep an eye on them as he asks around. Charles wonders who he's going to ask, and D-Luke replies, the Protectors of Mondstadt, referring to the Knights of Favonius. The Traveler, Paimon, and Venti head upstairs just as two knights enter the tavern, asking D-Luke if he's seen two thieves. D-Luke then asks why so many guards have been mobilized, and one of the knights informs him that two thieves tried to steal the Holy Lyre. D-Luke questions why someone would steal something they can't sell, even stating it's better to steal from his own wine cellars, before apologizing for being off topic and misdirects them. Once it's clear, Venti tries tries to order a drink, but Diluc, catching him stealing a bottle, says he can put it back and wants answers. Diluc mentions he heard about some thieves from the guards, applauding their guts for trying to steal the Holy Lyre de Himmel. Paimon defends themselves by saying they didn't steal it and that the real thief is still out there, as Venti backs her up asking why the Hasha of the Knights of Favonius would steal Mondstadt's sacred treasure. Diluc acknowledges the traveler's aid to Mondstadt, but thinks it's a shame they joined the Knights, believing that they're inefficient and conservative towards the Fatui. Venti notices he doesn't really like the Knights, as Diluc says it's just differences in approach. Back to his questions, he wants to know why they stole the Holy Lyre, and Venti asks if he answers with a performance, would Diluc believe him? He says he'll make his own judgment as Venti begins his performance. In shock, Diluc wonders why Venti told him such confidential information, who vaguely says maybe the winds are changing and asks Diluc what he thinks. He says to give him some time to organize contacts and tells the traveler that as a knight, they aren't a suspect since blonde is the only description on the wanted poster. As for Venti, it's better to stay in the tavern, who doesn't find an issue with it, saying he likes taverns.
Okay, let's meet here tonight after the tavern closes.
After the tavern closes, the Traveler and Paimon return and find Jean there as well, who is shocked to see them. Diluc mentions that he contacted multiple people and that Jean is here as herself, not as the acting Grand Master. She mentions about the Holy Lyre and asks if its sound can really purify Storm Terror. Diluc knows that it seems absurd and says Venti could do his performance again to persuade her, but Jean quickly intervenes and says she believes him. She can't think of any reason for Devon's betrayal since it was one of the four winds, but if it was poisoned in battle all those years ago and then corrupted by the Abyss Mage when it woke up, they can't really blame it. However, as the acting Grand Master, she can't make this claim publicly due to the diplomatic pressure from the Fatui, making it hard to seek a peaceful resolution. People would think she doesn't understand the gravity of the situation, which is why she can only do this in private. Diluc is surprised at how quickly Jean trusts an Outlander, as she states that even he, her cautious superior, trusts them as well. He says not to call him sir, however, quickly drops the topic since they don't get to work together often, but the situation is already a little awkward.
I have a rough idea of where the Holy Lyre de Himmel is.
Nice recovery. She's really talented at changing the subject.
Jean mentions that the conflict between Mondstadt and Shishnia stems from the Seven Nations and their respective gods. The Fatui seems to be after the animal god's power, and if the Knights of Favonius are against the idea of killing Devon, then the only way they can weaken the animal god is to take the Holy Lyre. Diluc adds that the number of Fatui members in Mondstadt is great, and that he managed to get some to talk, which allowed them to determine that the Holy Lyre is not in the Goth Grand Hotel. The Goth Grand Hotel is where the Fatui are staying, making Jean believe they wouldn't keep it somewhere it could easily be found, which Paimon understands since it would cause a big diplomatic issue. While Jean thought that the Fatui wanted to take Devon's power for the Cryo God, Venti thinks that they're trying to use Barbados' connection to the wind to draw him out. However, since the animal god has been seen for over 1,000 years, Diluc questions why he thinks that's their intention, who couldn't come up with an answer. Moving on, Diluc gives the Traveler a disguise to protect their identity, since the Fatui are still one of Mondstadt's allies, or at least that's what they're putting on as they leave the tavern. Locating a Fatui hideout, they interrogate a Fatui guard that mentions the place is locked up and that they'll need a key to move forward. He mentions that one of the Harbingers, the 11 leaders of the Fatui, is already in Mondstadt, Senora, and tells them not to say a word about him before departing. Diluc further explains that she is number 8 of the Harbingers, who are the reason the Fatui are able to do as they please across the 7 nations, and says they should act quickly before she becomes aware. Finding the hidden key, they come across a Fatui agent who is guarding the lyre and defeat him to retrieve it, who mentions that Senora is going to end them before running off as the Traveler, Paimon, and Diluc return to Mondstadt. Meeting up at the tavern, Venti is impressed they managed to retrieve the lyre, and Jean asks if he can use it to summon Devon. Even though it's the real deal, he doesn't believe it'll work because his animal power has run out after 1,000 years. The lyre is fine, but the strings, not so much, which is why Venti asks if the Traveler still has Devon's teardrop crystal and tells him to use it on the holy lyre. Carefully applying the crystal, the holy lyre shines ever so brightly. Venti states it won't lose any more power, but its power isn't replenished either, it needs more tears. Jean says she'll mobilize the rest of the knights to assist the Traveler, as Venti is moved by heroes supporting each other and decides to come up with a song. Paimon asks if all he's going to do is sing, who remarks he wouldn't be much of a bard if he didn't. For being so cheeky, Paimon comes up with an ugly nickname for Venti, and from now on, he'll be known as Tone Deaf Bard. Finding 3 more teardrops, they regroup at Dawn Winery and Venti asks the Traveler to purify the crystals. Like before, they purify them and decide to use the crystals on the holy lyre. With the lyre fully restored, they should be able to use it now and wonder where they should summon Stormterror. Jean mentions they should be away from the city where there'll be no casualties, and Venti adds that it should be by the sea or a high place so the wind can travel. Diluc states that east of Starfell Lake, there are mountains south of the beach, the same beach the Traveler was snoring away on, and Paimon had to wake them at the start of their journey. The cliff there is known as Star Snatch Cliff, and Diluc asks Venti if it meets the requirements, who says yes and that they should do it there. With the location in mind, Jean says to meet there once everyone is ready. Arriving at Star Snatch Cliff, Venti says they should be prepared for a fight as he begins his performance with the holy lyre.
Then why do I see sadness in your eyes? Sadness that speaks of your yearning for this song.
We are communicating. Huh?
No! Don't get bored! Do not be fooled by him, dear dragon. He left you to rot alone. Now he attempts to deceive you once more.
Beetles!
Let your wrath fester. Mondstadt has already turned its back on you.
You were planning this all along to have me slain by them!
No, listen to me!
The time has come for the dragon to serve its true master. While you beware your magnetic shadows, watch the world tremble with fear.
Dvalin.
Stuttering, Jean mentions Barbados, or rather, Venti should be careful as he knew that Jean had discovered his identity for some time now, but thanks her for using the name Venti. Diluc then asks how the holy lyre was, and if it can still be played or needs to be repaired. Unfortunately, Venti says it's beyond repair, as the Traveler states that they can't let the Abyss Mage get away and that Dvalin is in danger. Diluc agrees and says they need to fight the evil at its source to save Dvalin, to which Jean says she'll call upon Outrider Amber to track it down. He says there's no need since he has contacts that can help track down the monsters. Paimon is touched by how Diluc protects Mondstadt in his own way, even though he dislikes the Knights. He mentions to wait for his word and that the Abyss Order's disregard for Mondstadt will not go unpunished.
Your Highness, your humble servant returns. When your homeland returns to this world, we shall revel in its glory.
And that concludes Act 2 of the Prologue for Tomorrow Without Tears. In this act, we will introduce to the Fatui, who are diplomats from Shashnaya, and the group the Traveler and Paimon will face many times across their journey. The Traveler showed the Knights of Favonius the teardrop crystal that they found, which Lisa says she'll need more time to analyze. At this time, Jean bestowed the Traveler the title of Honorary Knight of the Knights of Favonius for the aid they provided to Mondstadt. Leaving headquarters, the Traveler and Paimon spotted the green green fellow from Act 1 who had been talking to Devon and decided to tail him. When they caught up to him, he was performing and singing the story of Devon, who had faced Durin, the Vile Dragon, many years ago, but was poisoned and corrupted by the Abyss Order, an organization of non-human beings who hates mankind. After hearing Devon's story, the Traveler showed Venti the teardrop crystal, which was now purified. Venti also came across a teardrop and asked the Traveler if they could purify it. Impressed by their abilities, Venti told them that Devon will wither away due to the poison, and to help him, Venti wanted to get the Holy Lyre, which is contained inside the cathedral, believing it could return Devon back to normal. As they attempted to steal the Holy Lyre, the Fatui beat them to it and disappeared, causing the Traveler and Paimon to be spotted. Together with Venti, they escaped to a tavern across the city and met the owner, D-Luke, and told him about the situation. Being informed, he decided to contact Jean, and together they came up with a plan to retrieve the Holy Lyre. After successfully infiltrating the Fatui hideout, they reclaimed the Holy Lyre and returned to the tavern. Venti identified that the lyre ran out of animal juice and used the teardrop crystal to replenish it, but it was still not enough and they went to gather more. Arriving at the Dawn Winery with more teardrops, the Holy Lyre regained its animal powers as they decided to summon Devon as Star Snatch Cliff. Venti tried to talk to Devon, but the Abyss Mage made an appearance, destroying the Holy Lyre and convincing Devon that Venti, or Barbados, was deceiving him. Enraged, Devon stormed off with the Abyss Mage as they both disappeared. Concerned about his safety, Jean told Venti to be careful, but accidentally called him Barbados, as Venti's identity is fully revealed. Since the lyre is beyond repair, they decided to find the Abyss Order, as D-Luke said to wait for his word since he has contacts that can help. Later, the leader of the Abyss Order was revealed as none other than the Traveler's sibling. This is the first scene where we see the Traveler's sibling since their separation, and suddenly they're the leader of this organization that we're trying to defeat? Things definitely just got a lot more interesting, so stay tuned for Prologue Act 3, Song of the Dragon and Freedom. Alrighty guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you did enjoy the video, be sure to smash that like and subscribe button. Don't forget to also turn that notification bell so you don't miss on any newly released videos. I've been Johnity, and until next time, I'll catch you guys in the next one.